Hey guys, it's Addon, welcome back to the channel, and today we're taking a look at NZA Simulation's ProLine Milford Sound Region add-on. This is $40 Australian if you buy it from Orbex's website, which I will link in the description. You can buy it from their website as well, I'll link that too. It is equivalent to 25 American dollars. Fear not, the Aussie dollar is not that bad. Now, this includes 8 specific airstrips in the region, including Milford Sound, Martins Bay, Big Bay Beach, Cascade Lagoon, where we're starting, Hope River, Hollyford Track, Cascade Station and Quinton Lodge. A couple of those are in the New Zealand update for MSFS. You might need to disable those first so you don't get doubling up. But we get multiple helipads, we get loads of hidden locations, tons of POIs, we've got animals and animated bird and animal life. We have tons of biome enhancements to the entire area, retouched mountain textures, custom sea cliffs, custom waterfalls. We have tons of hidden adventure locations, 3D interiors for various buildings and structures like the underwater observatory at Milford Sound, and really cool scenery. So let's go take a look at this. We're going to take a little flight today from Cascade Lagoon down to Big Bay Beach to Martins Bay and then on past St Anne's Lighthouse down to Milford Sound itself. And we're taking the 808 Comanche because I love it. So let's get ourselves in here and get going for the day. We'll make sure we have a quick look outside first because... Oh, and for some reason I'm running, or was. That was weird. So this is Cascade Lagoon. I love the fact they've changed a lot of the actual trees and foliage here. Enhanced points there like the headlands. And the water masking I think is one of the biggest differences for me in this enhancement. They made a big difference in how that all looks. It makes a big, big difference in terms of how the scenery actually appears, which is wonderful. Even just the small nuances like this, like the little cabins, the jetties, the rocks, everything feels so much more realistic. Absolutely love it. One or two buildings appear to be a little bit sunken. Unless that's the Hobbit house. Might well be, who knows? Let's get ourselves ready, shall we? Okay. I'll leave those off for now. Fuel boost pump is on. Let's make sure our mixture is set. Captain Whiskers is joining us today, as always. Let's make sure our parking brake is set, as it should be. Those should be set. And it should be a relatively simple matter, as always. Never as simple as it. Give it a couple of pumps on the primer. My mags are set where they need to be. Beautiful clean start there. Avionics on. And we'll get ourselves ready to depart when the engine warms up here. We'll get sure we have enough RPM in the engine. So it can do just that. And then we'll get ourselves off. Shouldn't be more than 25 minutes or so flying time today. Will not take forever. But the Comanche of the planes I have around are quick enough. It's also got some of the nicer view from the cockpit here. Unlike some, because it's just a lot better lower visibility angle from the canopy. I don't fly as much as I'd like to in New Zealand, but with sceneries like this in this area of the South Island, it really does encourage you to fly into those areas as well. Make sure we have... Oh, okay. Did I turn the actual tanks off? Did I do a stupid? I think I did, because that's now started up properly, and we actually have the engine running. So yeah, I think I had the tanks off and I was running on primer alone, which is telling that works, because it should work, and then it'll run out. So at least it actually does function. All right, let's just get ourselves taxied out, ready for departure today. We'll let our engine warm up still. Temp's not perfect yet, but it's getting there. You know what? This is a downhill grade, so we'll have to take the 1 or 2 knot tailwind for departure here if we're going to take off with the grade, which will always be better for us. Let's make sure my head is switched on and operating here today. It's not a big grade, but it's enough to make things interesting, so we'll... There we go. Get ourselves taxied up here. Some birds there on the coastline. Got to keep an eye out for those. Don't want to fly into them when we're taking off. But South Island has some gorgeous scenery. If you like flying around in British Columbia, Canada, you'll find this region very, very similar. Alright, let's get ourselves out of here, shall we? Airspeed's alive. haul our ass into the sky. Nice and easy flaps coming back in. Wow, I decided to take off with full flaps for some reason. Teach me to actually look down rather than just clicking a button and assuming it's the right one. That's my mistake for the day, so we'll make sure we don't do any more of those. Let's drop the nose down here and turn before we reach this headland. I was kind of giving it right rudder there when I didn't really need to. But this is Cascade Lagoon. Now, one of the biggest enhancements I noticed really with this scenery is definitely the water masking and little beaches on the edges of waterfronts rather than being trees down to the right to the edge all the time. You tend to see a lot more actual kind of little shorelines and shallows and great water masking, especially with these river entrances and estuaries. Everything looks a lot more realistic. So it's a very short little hop along here to Big Bay Beach, which is 600 feet of grass, although it looks a lot smaller. That was 900 feet of grass. We could definitely handle that in the Comanche. No problem whatsoever. And St. Martin's Bay, we have 1,500 and 1,800 feet, depending on which one we use. But we'll take a little bit of a look around when we do that. Okay. Let's get our prop back here where we want it to be. And we'll get ourselves trimmed out nice and easy. And we should pass the Gorge River, which is a one in the update. It's not included with this, but it's in the world update that we got for this, which also included the caribou. So it should be just ahead of us on the coastline. And I believe Hope River's on there too. But we'll take a look as we pass. NZ32. That'll be Hope River Airstrip coming up here. Let's take a little bit of a look as we go past. 76 custom watercraft in this, including a couple of the sail ferries you'll see around Milford Sound itself. So those are all custom models. It's rather cool to see. Let's make sure we get our power back a little bit here. Now I'm not sure where you're landing down here. Is it on the bit of beach there? That seems quite small though. Because this is where it should be. Unless that's what you got to work with there. I think that's what you got to work with. Oh boy, that's tiny. Good job we're not flying into there today. Yep, that's what you got to work with. So these are some really gnarly, nice little real-world bush strips out here in New Zealand to really operate with. Some of them might be a bit small for this, although I have taken it into the parallel 42 strips, so maybe I'm saying we can bite off more than we can probably think about chewing. But we should come up on Gorge River and then Big Beach Bay. Although Martin's Bay does seem more like a resort location, it's probably somewhere you'd have a lovely dry martini, whereas Big Bay Beach feels like somewhere you'd have a bunch of mimosas or beers on the beach. It's a very remote, sandy beach. Much more my kind of flying. But it's only 13 nautical miles on this leg here, 6 minutes or so for us. And we'll be away in no time whatsoever. But I will say that the scenery density does seem a lot higher with this pack. I know they talked about changing up the biomes in terms of what we're get in terms of trees and foliage and plant life. And there's a big difference in that, but it does seem a lot denser. I may be crazy. And obviously we've had the update to the sim itself, which has changed some performance issues, but the sim itself just seems more floral in this region. Not others, but since I put this pack in, the NZA Simulations ProLine, it does seem like a lot more's going on. So there is that. I mean, look at how rich and dense this scenery is. Absolutely gorgeous. Appear to have some sort of vessel out there ahead of us. It looks like a vessel. It could be a small outcropping. It's an outcropping. I'm blind and an idiot. But we get to fly the Comanche, which is always worth it. And this is what I mean about the coastlines. They just look so much more stunning out here. Again, I might be crazy. I could be imagining all of it, but I've flown this region a couple of times before. I like flying this region, and it looks better. They've certainly made changes. Now, I will always be a big proponent when it comes to region updates for the sim. Because buying an airport, you can spend maybe $10, maybe $15 on a really nice airport. Fine. But I'd rather spend $25 and get a region. Like, of course, they had the Mount Cook one, which was NZA Simulations, and this one, of course, 8 airstrips, including little bush strips as well, and extra strips. You've got tons of helipads and huts are great for, of course, going out there float flying, taxiing up to those locations. Most of those are reachable by water, so a lot of them have docks, so plenty of places to actually tie up there with a float plane, which there are tons in the sim now. The helipads are cool if you're enjoying your helicopter flying, and the hidden locations, hidden adventure sites, places to explore. It turns an area, which could be an airport that you then fly in and out of and go to and from an area, into a region you can stay in and enjoy, because there's things to do, which is always worthwhile. So that's Gorge River down there. That is the default scenery that comes with the world update. We took the caribou in there somehow and survived. But we should be arriving at Big Bay Beach just past this. I've flown into Big Bay Beach once, so I'll be going straight in rather than doing a quick recce run. We don't exactly have time to mess around doing a ton of recce runs. Whereas that's normally something I'd do if I was going to and from A to B and hitting a bush strip. I'd do some reconnaissance runs there and actually try and work out what I'm going to do in terms of landing. You'll find when I'm doing these kind of point to point to point to point to point trips, showing an area or showing a scenery, we don't exactly have a ton of time, so we're going to kind of make it as we go. Yeah. But that's Gorge River down there. Like I said, that's with the world update, so you have a couple of airports that aren't in the actual NZA Simulations pack that are also enhanced to this area, which means you have an even bigger area of really cool airports and sceneries to play with, which is so much fun. Alright, put the power back on again because I was just cruising along here at lower speed. And Big Bay Beach should be across this headland. But it certainly adds something interesting for us that's not Canada, because we have a ton of bush scenery and amazing amount of bush scenery for Alaska and Canada, and there are some other areas, some parts of Africa and some parts of South America that have something similar, but very little that's really comparable. Whereas you come down to New Zealand and you get a ton of comparable flying in the mountains, in the fjords here. In fact, the fjords in New Zealand, down on the South Island, are very similar to that of the Pacific fjords in BC. So, if you enjoy that kind of flying, but you want more, you can do it here. In fact, if it's winter up there, it's summer down here. Winter down here, summer up there. So you get your winter bush flying in fjords. Although I wouldn't want to fly my beaver down between British Columbia and New Zealand between the seasons. That could take a while. That'd be a very, very, very bumpy journey. If you could even make it, I'm not sure you could actually make it. You'd have to really kind of island hop. Probably down through the Philippines from Asia. That would be one heck of a trip. Right, Big Bay Bear, Beer, Bear, Big Bear, Beer, Big Beer Bear. Big Bay Beach is just past here, I think. So we're going to drop down along this headland ahead of us, which should give us the opportunity to drop in and land at the beach strip. Although we could, you know what, we'll fly the downwind actually. We'll fly downwind approach here, turn, and we'll make our run. It gives us a longer straight line run into the beach rather than coming in tight along this headland, because this end you have to come in right along this ridge line down here, below it, and turn along the beach. Whereas if we go downwind here, we can use that to our advantage and extend slightly, give you a better view of the airstrip as well. So we'll do that. So I'm going to power back to idle here. It's going to whine at me, but I don't care. Okay, we're at maximum gear speed already, so we can drop... Oh no, not flaps. Whoa, wrong thing to drop. Gear coming down. Yeah, the change in the wind tone. That's something I love about A2A, is I get even the wind tone changes as my gear drops. Okay, one notch flaps. Wonderful. And here's Big Bay Beach. Now the strip itself is just down this end here. It's not the whole beach. It gets really kind of bumpy down that half there. You won't want to be landing on that. But just about here, parallel with the beach, just inland, we've got a strip there, which is our landing zone. And we are a little bit high up here, so we're going to drop down. And I really should set my altimeter, which is not something I have set. Because apparently we're going below sea level right now. Slip down here and drop some of this altitude. Not build up too much speed. Bring the nose back up there. We don't want to gain too much airspeed. But that, as you'll get a perfect view of it here. Right there is our runway. Some aircraft parking there. A couple of huts and buildings along here. So, again, just the water masking in this area is really stunning. Really adds to the general appearance of the area. Okay. Nice and easy. And power on and let it straighten out here. About 100 knots, which is perfect. We'll use that for our turn. Wonderful. But a wingtip away from that. And we'll U-turn here rather than box patterning this, because there's no need to box pattern it. Let's bring the nose right a little bit so we've got a bit more of a kick around. Power on and rudder into the turn. Let the nose drop a little bit as we set ourselves up for that approach. There we go. Nicely done. Second arch of flaps, now we're straightening out. Keep my head up here so I can see what we're doing. We're a little fast. I'd like to be slower, so let's give it a kick in the backside. Slow us down a little bit. Let it straighten up before we touch down, and pop goes the weasel. Flaps coming up. I'm not braking, because sand, wonderful for braking on. I'm going to give it a little bit of a dab, 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 dab. Alternating the brake pedals, just dabbing them, almost giving myself ABS, because I don't want to be braking too hard on sand. That is not an ideal situation. Right, whilst I put the brakes on here, and leave us with some RPM running so the engine behaves itself, we'll quickly hop out here, take a look around. So a couple of parked aircraft, just a Cessna there. As you can see from the smoke, we've got a couple of huts here nestling in the trees. One there. And we have one just back here following the little trail. A couple of buildings nestled in the trees. Not a ton going on at Big Bay Beach, but it's at least interesting to have here. Now taking off here, of course, we've got really to where that windsock is. It's a mixture of kind of sandy grass, so not exactly wonderful in terms of a surface, but it's plenty for our purposes. More than enough to work with. So let's, without further ado, get ourselves on with this. One notch flaps. There we go. Taxi over here. Turn around, and we'll get ourselves moving. Off we go. You can operate a little bit differently when you're operating in strips like this. There's not as much visible options. So you're using references like the pole there, and it should be enough for us to get up and away. It is. Gear coming up, flaps coming up. So one thing I love about bush flying over regular GA flying is you end up in places like this where I'm taking off from essentially a beach. My references are whatever I can find to use for my runway size, and often you really find it more difficult to spot the runway even. So there's a lot of improvisation in terms of where you're applying a soft field technique, where you're applying short field techniques, where you're applying different ways of approaching the airstrip. Because if you notice back there, as we go third person here, because I could do this without the stupid bug happening now. Would I approach that way and tuck it in tight and drop in there? I can. But I might not, because it's a lot tighter. It's a location where you would reasonably consider going, I've got 1 or 2, maybe 3, 4 knots of tailwind. I'll take the longer, straighter approach because it's going to be much more controllable for the aircraft, and I've got more room. Now, it's not particularly sloped on that one, but we had a little bit of a grade at Cascade Lagoon, so that was something to take into consideration. It's a shorter strip there, so a little bit of slope on a really short strip like 900 feet, you're going to want to take what you've got with that. So Martin's Bay, we've got 1500, we've got an 1800. The 1800 is crossways to the main runway. The main runway leads directly to the actual lodge. We'll be using that one. It is just behind here. So not very far at all. Moments, in fact. Gorgeous area to fly in. Love seeing little boats around. Love seeing the various fauna and flora. The airports and airstrips themselves are really exciting. I remember back in the day, one of my flights back in FSX before I started doing this. In fact, it was on my original actual channel, my main channel, when I started flight sim content on there before I made Av Angel as a channel. I remember having one of my flights from Milford Sound out to Martins Bay back in FSX when it was the Orbex region. So, you know. Right, powering back here, we have to lose a lot of altitude, and I forgot to set my altimeter like I said I was going to. Like a dumbass. So one of the strips here at Martins Bay is crossways there, one of them is that way. So we'll just drift down here, one of them's there, so that's our 1800 footer. And our main strip is there, just about. You can't quite make it out from here, but you'll see in a minute. But we'll cut in along here, we'll turn around here and we'll come back that way. So the main strip we're landing on is there, that's 1500 feet. This is our 1800 foot crossways, there's a parking area there. A couple of boats here. 1800 feet there with a dirt road leading back to the main resort. So a nice in over the water here for your 1800 footer. It's dirt. Wider. Take a slightly bigger aircraft. But we'll make it work. We absolutely will. Gear down. There's Martins Bay itself, though, to the right of that. Okay, one notch flaps. Let's turn in. We'll use this side of the water as our reference. There's a speedboat actually moving along the water. Connection lost. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Sim, for doing something that I wasn't doing. Oh, no, it's back. Love you, Microsoft, the Sobo. It's totally not the boon of my existence. Not at all. Nope. Yep, again. Cool. Just what I wanted when I want to approach. Thank you, guys. I'm looking for a strip tucked into the middle of nowhere in the New Zealand bush. And I can't even do a New Zealand accent without sounding like I've just got brain damage. But I could try. There it is. Oh god, this is going to be tight. Slip mode engaged. Dig this around. Kill some airspeed. Keep my nose up. Diddly up, 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 up. Ooh, pretty water. No, pay attention to the runway. Okay, let's give it a bit of a wiggle the opposite direction there. This is going to be tight. Wow! Slight thunker, admittedly. Hefty thunker, if I'm going to be really brutally honest. But we made it in somewhat intact fashion. Although it looked like a drunk parrot flying that one. I will blame the Sobo's connectivity issues. Absolutely what happened there. Nothing to do with me flying like a moron. Not even slightly. Okay. What do you think, Captain Whiskers? Did you approve of that, or did you end up on the ceiling liner? I think Captain Whiskers ended up on the ceiling liner there. Let's turn around. Here. We'll go quick a bit of a look at Martins Bay. Right, parking brakes on. So, it's a kind of gravelly, relatively unimproved runway. Although slightly improved. We've got fencing along each side, so it's relatively narrow here. Obviously, you've got the dirt trail there that leads to the runway for vehicle traffic. That's for our bigger 1800 footer. And there's that little speedboat leading along the way. So more room there, but not a ton. So you're not going to fit, you know, anything huge in. We've got some buildings down there in the trees. But the real joy here is down this little gravel pathway to the resort itself. Little resort building, but even no one past this point when aircraft engines are running. So I be parking up about here, probably. Yeah. The boat parked up, probably a little bit dry there, comparatively, but hey, at least the thought that counts. We've got a dock here. Little elevated pathway from the hotel buildings at the resort there to the helipad. Nice little scenery, actually. Let's go back to our buzzing bumblebee over here and get ourselves ready to clear out, because we have St Anne's Lighthouse and then Milford Sound on the way. Right, flaps are up. We'll give it one notch of flaps. Let's give it the beans, and we'll get out of here. Okay. You know, considering my name is actually Rachel, I wonder if I should be going for Rachel Hammond rather than Jane Clarkson with my comparisons to Top Gear stuff. Because I definitely crash more than Clarkson does. And I'm quite excitable. And I'm basically American. So there is something to be said about that. Maybe Rachel Hammond is the correct approach to take with this. I'm basically an American. I crash, and I'm very excitable. Although I'm not short, so there is that. I don't know. Ideas in the comments. I know the Jane Clarkson thing started to take off. We'll probably stay with that because it is quite funny. I definitely behave a lot more like that, so I'm okay with that as a comparison. It's way more fun to do this. Like, I could sit here and I could run through 20 pages of checklist with you guys in the sim, and we could have a wonderfully procedural time whilst we counted rivets together. And it would be a jolly fun time, you know, whilst we checked over our manual for the Piper Comanche, and we sipped our tea together whilst making sure we were both very glad that we were all operating exactly the same number of pumps of the manifold, or primer, sorry, for takeoff. Or we could fly by the seats of our underpants. The sim could crap itself on a monumental scale, and we could be fine. Climbing over this where it doesn't look quite as pretty. I'm hoping things are better on the other side. You never know. It is a Sobo. It is Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. It could be Legoland on the far side, but we never know. Oopsie daisy. No, it looks all fine on the far side. So just one bad hill to not judge the entire scenery by. There we go. Drop our nose down here. Level up. And we should be wonderful. Another river estuary there. We'll take a quick look at as we level out here. Make sure everything's trimmed to somewhat preference. And I keep forgetting to actually do my altimeter. 2881. Okay, God. 2992 we want. Should be the current altimeter. 2992. Look out the window to make sure I'm not doing something entirely stupid whilst we do this. Should have done this on the ground if I'm brutally honest, but where's the fun in that? 2992. That's more like it, and we're about 2,500 feet, so far more appropriate for us. And I meant to look out the window over there. Oh, little estuary. We've got things vanishing down there, so who knows whether it's going to work or not by the time we get across here. And there's big boxes out to sea, so the sim could have just bonked itself because it is, you know, a Sobo. Ha! Well, we have resolved our issue because we convinced the simulator to allow us to turn back on Bing World Data Graphics, and it did. And everything was once again pretty, and not at all like the sim was having a stroke. Yay. So we can go back outside and actually see pretty things now, rather than kind of having a stroke. Eh? I can't find the plane. Oh, there it is. There's the plane. Whee! Buzz, 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 buzz. There we go. Right, drop the nose down here so we aren't flying entirely through a cloud. Mildly detrimental to our entire enterprise. pop out into the clear now. Look at those gorgeous mountains. This is one of the things I love about flying New Zealand is this scenery. Absolutely stunning. Just the scale of it is absolutely wonderful, and it really gives us some nice views to enjoy. We're about 2 minutes out from the lighthouse here, which should be right ahead of us. You can see the red light glowing there. Right there. And then we turn in here towards Milford Sound itself. And the Big Kahuna. Right. A bit of a notch out of that, so we should be doing the 25 for that. We're good to go. So that should be the St Anne Point Lighthouse, which is our turning point for the fjord leading to Milford Sound itself. We'll have Mitre Point, one of the peaks in there just at the end. We'll show you that one. That is made famous, of course, by Indiana Jones. And I think it was The Lost Ark. Yes, because it was the one where it opens up, he's in the jungle with the boulder that rolls down the hill. So, what was that? Last Crusade. I can never remember which start that was. I know it wasn't Temple of Doom. It was one of the other two, or the good ones, not the weird ones since. But I digress. We'll not talk as much about the weird ones since. Right, put some power back here so we can drop down. We'll start to see some of the cliff enhancements along here. And those make a big difference in fjords, because obviously in BC we don't have a lot of that with the way the scenery is built, unfortunately. But having a lot of that here, it really does enhance how these fjords really look in real life compared to the big green slab sides you often see in various of the fjord regions in flight sims. It's just unfortunate that's how textures stretch, but we couldn't have Addon scenery everywhere, could we? So we're starting to see some of it down here. Gorgeous beaches down there with all the rock, the outcroppings, some boats down there. So this is what I like to see. This is what really enhances an area for me. Not only do I get a bunch of airfields I can fly into, but I get to really see an area as other people see it. Those rocky cliff faces, the shallows there. Oh, that looks stunning. So that's the St Anne Point Lighthouse right there. Oh, we're flying fast. Pull that all the way back in. Too fast, in fact. I think that's one of the ferries over there. Our airspeed's dropped down there. Good. There's the lighthouse on the end. That's not it. That's not it. It's right there, I think. Unless it is there. No, it is there. But it's there as well. I'm confused. That appears to be it. Okay, and it is actually turning. So at night you'll see the light. Power back on so we don't fall out of the sky. That'd be useful. Bring around here. There's the red channel lights. Wonderful. I've got to see some of the big fjord cliffs here as we run on into Milford. It's 8.2 nautical miles here, so about 2 minutes once we get ourselves into correct speed configuration. And we'll run along the channel, make a straightened approach into Milford, and we should be just grand. Wonderful. Already see the gorgeous cliffs on the right there. So it's nice having the channel markers. Port being red, being on the left there. I don't see an equivalent green marker on this side for starboard, but we at least have the port point there of the channel. Look at this. There's a waterfall flowing off that. That's gorgeous. That is stunning. I love this. Look at that waterfall. Wow. Back inside here so I don't crash. Very close to the cliffs there. Now this is fjord flying. Look at this. Look at the rocks on either side of us. God, that is stunning. Right down to the water. Another waterfall there. This is fjord flying. This is beautiful. Another waterfall there pouring down from the mountains. God, look at that view. Wow. I can see myself doing serious flying around here. It is breathtaking. God, I actually want to take helicopters through here. And I'm going to fly through the mountainside because I'm looking at too much scenery. God, silly me. And that'll be Milford Sound ahead of us. Okay, so I need to set up for our approach here. We're going to have the underwater observatory on our left over here. Should be just round that corner. So we tuck round to the left-hand side. I believe it's down and round there. I think so, at least. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's in there. Yeah, down there. And that's where it should be, the underwater observatory. And, oopsie daisy, we're flying in the wrong direction because we're being idiots. We are need to slow down. There's one of the sail ferries. See, it's sails in full flow. God, so much to see, and I'm trying to set up for approach. God, I'm confused. There's the waterfall. It's too pretty. Oh God, there's so much happening. Gear. We'll fly around on drone camera in a second. We'll focus on landing first. We'll try not to look at the gorgeous waterfall over there with all the boats and the prettiness and the mountains and the scenery. And I'm going to try and not get distracted and crash into a hillside. I've nearly killed us 4 times since entering this this fjord. Woo! Another boat. Stop paying attention to the boats. Bad. No. Okay, roll it in here. Nice and easy. Little bit of a slip just to kind of kill some of that airspeed. Big cliffs in the background. Look at the scale of the world around this airport. This is an approach. Over the marshland here at the end of the runway. God, the scale of the mountains around this is just breathtaking. To try and just pay attention to the runway alone is hard. So bring it in here. Let us all straighten up. Let's try not to clunk this one so hard. That was less aggressive, probably. Bring it to a slop. And we'll have enough room here to turn around. And brake a little bit harder than I normally would, so I've got time to pull off the runway here. Pull us into parking. Hello there, Bob. And we are stopped. Parking brake is on. Fuel is cut. Mags are off. Avionics, electronics are all switched off. Let's go explore Milford Sound, shall we? Wow. The Pro decided to turn on for some reason. So we've got, ooh, a terminal in here. That's kind of cool. I wouldn't say it's necessary, but it's a terminal. Did they model they modelled the damn bathroom. They modelled the toilet and the offices. Yep, they modelled staff changing rooms. Okay, they've gone to an nth degree here. Electrical room. Did they model it? They modelled the generator room. Okay, cool. So they're nerds. That's fine. Even modelled another office here. I mean, the hangars I could appreciate. The hangars look amazing. But even look here, you got the whole town. The estuary there. Look at these valleys. That is stunning. Just, you could spend ages on the drone camera just flying around here looking at all this and enjoying it. Football pitch. It's New Zealand after all. God, look at all this. I'm assuming those are hotels. They look hotel-y. Got all the parking there. It feels hotel-y. Got the ferry terminal there. And that waterfall is beautiful. Look at that. God, absolutely gorgeous. This is totally worth it. 25 bucks, you get all of this. It's crazy. Totally do it. Absolutely worth every penny. On this wonderful note, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!